Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have Chelsea joining us, who is another online teacher. Today, we are going to chat all about her online teaching journey, as well as how she has found success teaching ESL on Outschool and Preplay while balancing the role as a mom. So first, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself. Let us kind of know how and when you started teaching online.
Yeah, so my name is Chelsea. I started teaching online back in March of 2020, kind of when COVID really happened.
Mhm.
I was working in the school districts at the time as a paraprofessional. And I was also 7 months pregnant, and they shut down the schools, and I was at home. And I was like, all right, well, I'm bored until this baby gets here. So I'm going to just work online. And so I started with VIPKID, and I had happened to be like looking through my spam email or something, and I came across a VIPKID email, and I was like, I'm going to check this out and see what this is all about. So then I joined the platform, and I had taught with VIPKID right up until I had my son. I actually had him early at 35 weeks. And then I kind of jumped right back into it. After a couple weeks, I started teaching again. I'm still kind of with them, but I'm not really teaching anymore just because they have the global platform and not a lot of students are there. But since then, I've joined Outschool and another platform called Preplay.
Nice. Oh, thanks for sharing that. And I didn't know like you had started like while you were pregnant and stuff. That's so crazy.
Yeah,
So
my husband's
as
like, my
oh
husband's like,
no,
what are you doing? Why are you
I
doing this? I'm like,
know.
it's fine.
Oh, that's nice though. That's nice. Were you a
Yeah.
classroom teacher before as well, or you just did paraprofessional?
I was. So
Yeah.
I was a paraprofessional with special needs students in Ohio. And then when COVID hit, unfortunately, my husband and I both lost our jobs. And I was able to get a brick and mortar teaching position in Florida because they offer a temporary certificate. So
Mhm.
I came down here. I'm from here. I have family here. So I came down here to teach third grade for 1 year, and I loved my kids. I had a great class, great teachers I worked with, but I just felt like I wasn't spending enough time with my son. So that's why I was like, all right, I need to make a change here. And so I made the jump to strictly online teaching.
Fine. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you do have a little one. How
Mhm.
do you create your teaching schedule and kind of balance mom life and then teaching online?
So it is really hard. Any mom will tell you it's so hard to have that balance. But what I always like to do is set boundaries. And I'll tell myself, okay, I'm going to wake up a half hour earlier on this day. I'll work on this during that time. And that's it. I have to cut it off and say, okay, now it's time. I need to go spend time with my family, whatever else needs to get done during the day. So just setting those boundaries really helps. It also helps that he is in a part-time preschool program. So he'll go Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So those are the days that I'm like all in teaching all
Mhm.
day. And then the other days I just teach early in the morning when my family's still sleeping.
Okay, good. That's actually a really good tip because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't want to give advice because I don't have any kids yet. That was like my
Yeah.
number one questions I wanted to ask you. So that's really good. I like that you do that. And do you work on the weekends or usually not?
I don't. I had opened up classes at the beginning when I was going like all in without school
Mhm.
on Saturdays and Sundays. And then I just closed them out as soon as I opened them within like the hour because I'm like, no, this isn't what I want. I want to keep my weekends open so we go to the park, we go to splash pad, like all these things on the weekend. So I
Mhm.
knew that I just had to stay true to what I wanted, and I made it
Yeah.
work around his schedule. So
Yeah. That's so key, I feel like, for everybody. When you start teaching, you get super excited to like open slots, but you have to go back to your why. Okay, why did I want to do this? And I think you mentioned you wanted to do it because you could spend more time with your family. So
mhm,
reminding yourself of that so much, I think is really helpful. So
exactly.
that's a really good tip for others. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about Outschool first. what do you think you've done for your Outschool business that has really helped you find success?
Well, I think my business has kind of changed a lot since the beginning. It kind of happened accidentally that I was going to take the next step with Outschool with VIPKID and everything going on in China. I was kind of forced to, take over with Outschool. And before, my classes were all just kind of fun. I have cats, so I had cat classes,
Me
and it was,
too. That's
yeah,
so funny.
awesome. So it was just like fun classes. It was more like
Mhm.
a hobby. And then I was like, all right, I need to dive in, do some academic classes. And I loved teaching with VIPKID. So I knew ESL was something that I really am passionate about. So I put those classes out there. And when I did, I tried to reach a wide range of time zones,
Mhm.
while staying true to myself with the times I wanted to teach or days I wanted to teach. But I would open up early mornings, like with VIPKID times. Then I would open up later afternoons to get those after school kiddos that are maybe in Canada or the US.
Mhm.
And I think that helped that I had a wide range of classes open, because then my class kept popping up in the search
Yeah.
when parents would search
Mhm.
on Outschool. So having multiple days, having lots of different times, and opening it up at least 2 weeks out, I think helped too, because there are some parents who are on top of it and they are looking ahead. And then there's also some parents who are super last minute, which is okay too,
Mhm.
but don't close those classes out. If you have some last minute enrollments popping up and you've canceled it, it's going to cancel out and you're not going to get those last minute enrollments. So open up classes far in advance, but also keep them open as long as you can.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And do you only do like one-on-one classes for ESL, or do you have like small group classes as well?
So I mostly am teaching one-on-one. I do have an ESL like show and tell class for the younger kiddos. I really like teaching early childhood education level,
Yeah.
because that's what my degree is in. So I have that group class. It hasn't really taken off as well as I would like it to. I had a couple enrollments in there, but for the most part, I'm teaching one-on-one for ages 3 to about 7 now.
Nice. And kind of another like side question. So I know you mentioned you're doing a little bit of like VIP kid hours. What students
Mhm.
are you usually reaching on Outschool? Like what, do you know what countries?
Yes, so I actually have a couple that they said they're in China still.
Oh, really?
So they were able to join Outschool. And then I do have one who's in Thailand,
Mhm.
and I think that's all that I know of, China and Thailand. But then, like the later morning times, I have students that are in Israel. So that's a
Oh,
good time zone
wow.
for like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Mhm.
And then in the afternoons, I have kids that are in the US or in Canada. So yeah, you can just reach a wide range of kids across the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a good tip to think too. Like, I'm sure your listing is kind of geared towards students that are from different places, not
Mhm.
necessarily all US, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So since you tutor ESL, and I know you were a VIPKID teacher, and VIPKID teachers are so used to having like curriculum or something to teach from, do you personally like purchase curriculum? Do you make your own resources? Do you kind of do a mix of both? What do you do?
So when I first started with the ESL classes on Outschool, I only had like a couple students at the time. So I was making all of my resources in Canva, which
Mhm.
I love creating. It's so much fun. But as I was getting more students, I was like, okay, this is too much. I don't have time to make all these personalized lessons. It's not fair if it's not personalized, because that's what I advertise.
Mhm.
So I stopped with Canva for the most part. I paused on that and I moved over to a curriculum called Learnaling. And with this curriculum, it's really set up a lot like how VIPKID lessons were. It's probably similar to other companies like GoGoKid, Palfish, all the other ones out there, where you follow a set lesson. So I use Learnaling for the most part, but I still also pull from resources so that it's still personalized, because some kids work better through games, or some work better with songs or things like that. So I do personalize that part still, but it's nice that I have the Learnaling curriculum to work through to know, okay, next class we're going to work on this, and the following week we have this coming up. So it's just a nice overview and plan to keep me from planning lessons all the time.
Right. So it saves you that time, but you still add that personal aspect for like every single student.
Definitely.
Is that like a monthly or like a yearly subscription that you have to do?
So you get the first month free, and then I believe after that it's $15 or $16 a month.
Oh, so that's not bad.
No, it's
That's
not
really
bad.
good.
Yeah, and the creator, I think she's also an online teacher, at least she was. Maybe this is now her full-time gig. But she is always creating new lessons. So she's currently adding lessons each week. She'll put out a weekly update. When you sign up, there's a community board, and people can ask questions and just talk about the lessons. And she's always active in that as well.
Oh, that's so cool. I know I've seen you mention it on your stories, but I've never like dug into it. So that's really cool. I didn't know all
Yeah.
that. Awesome. That's a good resource then for those, I guess, that want to teach like ESL. Do you think it can be used for other subjects as well, or is it more of just like teaching English as a second language?
I would say I've actually had this question a lot recently. It could go with maybe ELA if the kids are younger and they're just working on learning the alphabet, that letter recognition, sound, stuff like that. I Unless they're an older student too, I feel like there's kind of you can have a younger student take this curriculum who's just working on letters, or you could have an older student who's kind of working on fluency, because there are some stories into the higher levels. I wish there was a little more of a phonics aspect in this curriculum, but I'm sure that's something that she's always working on. So that's the only thing. You just have to keep that in mind. It definitely is geared towards ESL students.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to ask, since we're kind of talking about ESL, if there is a teacher that wants to start teaching ESL on Outschool, do you have any tips for them?
Definitely just get started, because you have to come up with your plan, know what you want to accomplish, make a checklist, make a to-do list of things you want to accomplish, get done with this business, and treat it like a business. And then once you have your brainstorming process taken care of, you just need to go through and dive in and say, okay, I'm going to get this done this week, I'm going to do this next month. And that's the only way that you're going to get started and become successful, because it does take time. When I first started with Outschool, I was not making nearly as much as what I'm making now, and having the enrollments like I do now. So you just have to jump in and get started.
Yeah, and then experiment. I know I've talked with other teachers that they say the first classes you make, they might not be the successful ones, and that's 100% okay. Try something else, try a different niche and see if that kind of works for like your teaching style and what you enjoy teaching.
Exactly. Yeah. The classes that I had some that were really successful from the beginning, like some cat classes. But then I had others that I had kind of ventured out and tried. I had even tried some flex classes, things like that, and they weren't as successful, but that's okay. I just realized, okay, that's not going to work right now. I'll move on to something else. So you're definitely right. Experimenting helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. So I know you work for other companies other than Outschool. What other teaching companies are you working for like right now?
So currently it's mainly Outschool, and then I teach with another platform called Preplay. And Preplay is really based on learning languages, but I do know that there are teachers on there who teach like chemistry, math, things like that. But it's a worldwide platform like Outschool is, and you just kind of make your profile, put your video out there, and students will come to you. So those are the two companies that I'm teaching with. I signed the VIPKID global contract, like I mentioned earlier, but I'm not currently opening any slots with them right now. So yeah, just those two for now.
And do those two kind of work well together? Like, do you have to have a minimum with Preply, or is it kind of you open whatever you want whenever?
You can open whatever you want, whenever you want. You have a lot of freedom with Preply because you set your pricing, your calendar. It is one-on-one, and it's also open to adults. That's the difference between
Oh.
Outschool. They have children and adult classes.
Can you choose if you want adults, or you kind of just get what you
I
get?
don't I don't think there's an actual like filter on there that says only kids, only adults, but I really geared my profile to kids only. So I actually do have one adult student who is amazing. She's from Korea, so she's learning
Oh.
English, and she's a little bit older than our age, I believe. But she's awesome. So I'm really glad that I at least got one adult student to see what it was
Mhm.
like, because other than that, I didn't really have experience teaching adults. So it's awesome if you want to kind of venture out to adults and see what
Mhm.
it's like. Preply would be the way to go.
And does Preply give you curriculum, or do you also provide that?
They have a library of resources. I don't really rely on it with my kids' classes, but for my adult student, I use it because she's working on pronunciation within some speaking practice. So
Okay.
they have just different topics you can go through, and it will be reading comprehension, discussion topics, things like that. So it's pretty good. But I also do like to pull in my own stuff too.
Nice. Okay, that's awesome. So could you then share like any tips for those who maybe want to work for more than one teaching company?
Definitely get organized. So I feel like I was a pretty organized person before I jumped into online teaching, but it's like a whole nother side of me now has taken over to where um, I have it with me here. I have a paper planner now where I'm writing down everything, all my classes, all my
Mhm.
students, and I even keep track of payments in there too. I tried to I tried the digital world and it didn't really work for me. So you
Mhm.
just need to find the planning system that works for you. So now I've gone over to a paper planner and it works really well because I can go in and see what I have coming up for the day, and then I cross it out once I have gotten the payment for it too. So it's a nice payment tracker too.
Yep, I do the same thing. And oh, here's mine. I have mine like for this week. Mine is a hot mess, but I
Oh,
like print
yep.
mine out each week and I'm scribbling all over. Oh, this was last week, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how mine is
Otherwise, and
too.
I only work for one right now. I haven't signed the VIPKID global contract, even though they keep asking. I have to do, I just haven't gotten in the system, but I'm only
Yeah.
doing Outschool and I still feel like sometimes it's a lot
Yeah.
to organize because you have so many different types of classes.
hmm
So,
And especially if you do the tutoring classes as well, you have one student here, one student here. You could
yeah,
be teaching so many students just in one day. So
yeah.
you have to stay organized to be on top of everything.
For sure. Figure out something that works for you.
hmm
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I feel like you shared so much really valuable insight and information kind of about your journey. I thought we could wrap it up and maybe you could just share like your top 3 tips for someone that wants to start teaching online.
Sure. So I would say be smart about it. If you are coming from a brick and mortar teaching position, you don't want to just up and leave and say, okay, I am ready to do this right now without having a plan. It took me a while to leave. I didn't want to leave in the middle of the school year with my kids when I was teaching third grade. I knew I wanted to finish the whole year, but even then, at the end of the year, I was trying to figure out, is this really what I'm ready to do? I need to make sure I have everything, ready to go. Plan A, B, and C. So definitely just don't jump into it without having that plan first. And then know that you're going to have to be patient. It's going to take time to build up your business and build up those enrollments. It's just not going to be an overnight success. But the longer that you're on these platforms, I've noticed with my own teaching that you're just going to keep growing. The longer you're on these teaching platforms, you will just keep building those enrollments, building relationships with families. So you just have to stick with it. And then the last thing I would say is just get started, knock off things on your to-do list and jump into it whenever you can, one little bit at a time. And then you'll eventually reach your main goal of, if you want to teach online full time, you'll get there. You just have to be patient, and take your time with it. And yeah, just keep working on one little thing at a time and you'll get there. And I do also want to mention it helps if you have a teaching space that
Mhm.
reflects your personality. If you like bright colors and rainbows, then throw all that up behind you and make sure it's something that you really love. If it's something where you like muted colors, simple, things like that, just make the space about you so that it's something that you can feel happy coming into and enjoying what you do, which is teaching online.
Yeah, I love that tip. And you can keep it simple too. You don't need like every single little thing.
Yes,
Because I mean, as a brick and mortar teacher, we know we're super hoarders. We love to keep everything because we might use it 20 years later, but you don't really
exactly.
need that for teaching online. I feel like the simpler, the better. Less
Yes,
clutter, it kind of just keeps your mind less cluttered and you're able to focus on the
exactly.
important
Yes.
like aspects of your business because your classroom
Mhm.
space is important for you, but it's not the most important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I feel like I had to, when I left my brick and mortar classroom, I purged a lot to just keep it more simple, like you said, and
Ish.
organized. And so I knew exactly what I had ready to go for like props or whatever you need for your classes. You just need to stay true to yourself because those kids that are meant to be your students, you're meant to be their teacher, they're going to come to you when they realize and parents realize, okay, this teacher really wholeheartedly loves what she's doing.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Chelsea, for sharing all that insight about teaching ESL, balancing other companies, and just being the best mom you can. I really, really appreciate all the value you shared with us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of
This is
course.
my first interview, so this is really exciting for me.
Ooh, I loved it. You did awesome. Thank you. Don't forget, if you are new to my channel, to subscribe. Every month, I am starting to interview other online teachers so they can share their journey and different tips with you. In the meantime, I definitely recommend you check out some of my other interviews. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.